You know, one of the biggest groups of gripes that you see on this internet is usually right wingers, libertarians, and conservatives complaining about how left wing all of the media has become: the comic books, the video games, the cartoons, everything, cancel culture. They're complaining about everything. And that's one of the biggest gripes that you see on YouTube. You don't really have to look too hard before you could bump into one of these. We're trying to save Star Wars. We're trying to keep the SJWs out of some culture or whatever, or complaining about how left wing a movie is. And people always ask themselves, why does the right wing always put themselves in this position? Well, there was a tweet that I saw earlier. I'm not going to say who it was from, but it was from a pretty big account. He has 114,000 followers. And he tweeted out, in response to somebody giving credit to the Snyder Cut Justice League movie, he responded, "Sorry, this is adolescent and pathetic. As you reach adulthood, your tastes should mature alongside your desire for more abstraction and complexity. Your mind and senses should be ready for a challenge. Superhero movies aren't it. Sorry if that offends you." In other words, you should stop caring about this kind of stuff because it's childish. And this is just one tweet, right? But it is indicative of what is going on in the libertarian and conservative right-wing circles, why they are constantly being kicked out of media and not represented as far as their morality or their values in any media. Why I have to make videos like Cultural Vandalism, where I talk about how things that were usually created by more liberal, not exactly full right-wingers, but more liberal creators have become full left-wing propaganda pieces, because they can, after you spend years building it up and talking about it, you turn away from it. It's childish. I shall turn from Captain America. Oh, wait a minute. They turned Captain America gay? Oh, yes, they did. Oh, no, they didn't really. They just created a new Captain America who just happens to be gay, right? It's like, I shall turn away from Iron Man. It is childish. And then you hear that they killed him off and replaced him with a little black girl. And you're like, wait a minute. How dare they do that? It's like, no. You said it was childish. You didn't care anymore. You turned around and you left. You abandoned it. So yes, the people who know that this stuff can be propaganda turned it into propaganda because you turned your back on it. This one tweet is indicative of what is wrong with conservatives and libertarians and the quote-unquote right wing of YouTube. I've been saying this a lot lately, and it's not just ye old, they need to create their own culture. I've been saying a lot of that too. People, right-wingers, need to write more. They need to write their own comic books, make their own cartoons, do all this type of stuff. I've seen Tim Pool talk about it. I've seen various writers on the internet talk about it. That's all true. You do need to, create and do more. I do a little bit. I haven't put anything out there yet, but I do writing. I've said it multiple times that I'm a writer. But it's not just that. It is the elitism that is in that statement. That superhero movies are adolescent, that they don't have abstraction and they don't have complexity. How dare you say that? That goes to show your ignorance of the genre and of the medium of comic books. But it's the same thing that people think that, oh my God, you read books with pictures, therefore you must be a child. And then they leave to read thick tomes about on liberty or whatever, which is not really a thick tome. But they go read these hard to read philosophy books, and then they come back and are surprised that the entire culture has changed while they had their nose in a book, trying to figure out how best to argue with pro-lifers or pro-choicers or whatever the hell. Meanwhile, there's a lot of people out there that are being changed by these books with pictures. That's why they want to ban books with pictures. That's why they want to get rid of, what you created as far as television and different media like that. They want to bury it because they know it's influential, because it actually reaches down to people who might not have such a high reading level. It is very good. Some comic books have taught people how to read because you get context and you get words, right? It's just similar to a Dr. Seuss book. You see the pictures, you see the words. But comic books, especially if they were written in the 80s or the 90s or even now, depending on the writer and, stuff like that, can be incredibly complex. Batman alone can be a very complex story. For instance, Batman tries to teach morality, right? Batman isn't just guy goes around, punches and kicks people. Batman can be part detective. What is evidence? What is evidence? Like, how do you track somebody? What is the most likely type of criminal this is? Getting inside the criminal's mind. It could be almost like Law and Order in some instances. Much like some of the more procedural TV dramas. That's one way you could go with Batman. Another way you could go with Batman is a ninja. He's in the shadows. He knows the art of war. He knows tactics. He knows how to get the drop on people. Another way you could go with Batman is he's more military, where he's capturing people and interrogating them. Another way you could go with Batman is that Batman is the punch and kick guy. What you know from the 60s, a pow, bam, boom. But anybody who's ever read a Batman comic knows that there's several layers to Batman. There's Batman the superhero. Then there's Bruce Wayne. Then there's Bruce Wayne the father, right? The man who raised Robin, who raised Red Robin, and who raised the Red Hood. Okay? How is he as a man? Portraying different values of manhood, how he passes those things down to his sons. How he tries to be a good role model, despite the fact that he is a deeply twisted human being. Batman doesn't believe in killing. The Punisher does. The Punisher is a different superhero. You could pick up those two different comics and get two different views of the world. Superman has a different view of the world. Spider-Man has a different view of the world. They have different responsibilities. They have different beliefs. They have different ways of teaching. And you just throw that away by saying that it's adolescent and nobody should care about that kind of stuff. As an adult, you should care more about the real world. It's like these things do have impact on the real world because it impacts children. Children picks these things up and they read them. Some people don't have any idea what's in any of these books because they don't read them. And then they wonder how they keep coming into these Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, these socialists, because they've been inundated with this stuff since they were children. It's in their very media from the beginning. Or are you surprised that there are so many trans people in the world now? Oh, how about you actually go and look and see where they're promoting it? They're promoting it in Sesame Street. Oh, are you surprised? But that's adolescent. You shouldn't care about that. This is what these people keep telling you. They abandon the culture and you're not surprised when the culture has turned against them. The right wing and the libertarians are fucking stupid. You're stupid. If you buy into that whole, as you reach adulthood, your taste should mature. Like, yeah, you can still buy a Batman comic. You can just buy a more mature Batman comic. You don't just have to buy one where it's, straight up black and white or what's going on. You can buy one where Batman is trying to figure out, hey, the police are actually the bad guys in this one. They're corrupt. One of the whole things about Gotham is mostly corrupt. The judges are corrupt. The police are corrupt. And Commissioner Gordon is the one good man in the entire Gotham City Police Department. That's why Batman works with him. But you would have to actually read a Batman comic to know that, or to even understand that concept. That sometimes a city is just, and Gotham is not, a completely fictional idea, because you can see that in the real world. You can see it in a city like Chicago that is almost completely fucking corrupt. There is no Batman, but the city is fucking corrupt. From the rooter to the tutor, as they say in the South. It is a corrupt ass city. And everybody knows it and they laugh about it. Only in comic books can they actually find a way to try to fix the problem. And it's usually through superheroics. In the real world, when something is so endemically corrupt as Gotham, people just laugh and turn away from it. And then they turn around and say, oh my God, Chicago is 90% Democrat, all the time, and it controls the entire state of Illinois. How could that happen? It's like because you just allowed it to happen. That's why. Detroit, same thing. Baltimore, same thing. Big cities, over 90% Democrat most of the time. Usually they're very corrupt. But you don't have anything to say because you didn't care about culture. You saying, oh, it's immature to care about comic books. What do you think these people are reading? And not everybody reads comic books. I understand that. But they watch cartoons. You know, these things find their way into the culture through one way or another. And then you get these outrage channels that get very angry and very upset that the culture has become very, very left-wing, very cancel culture, very SJW. And it's like, well, what did you think about it? Well, I turned away from it. I grew up and I stopped caring. It's like, well, okay, cool. You stopped caring. Millions of other people did the same thing you did, but there was people who didn't stop caring. There was people who loved it and nurtured it, and then there was people who said, okay, well, I can use this to promote my own agenda, and then they do. And then your children go and pay to see those movies. Your children go and pay for streaming services to watch those things on TV. You're mad at Disney? So what? You emboldened Disney. You've been spending money on Disney all this time. You're still giving money to Disney. Oh my God, Disney, they're in the pockets of China. Okay, what are you going to do about it? You've been giving money to Disney for 30 years. You didn't care. So now China controls Disney, and which controls all the shit that your children are going to see for the next 400 years or whatever. Your loss, because you didn't care. You wanted to be mature. I want to go write an 800-word tome on liberty and justice. Nobody wants to read that shit. Only people in college read that shit. Most people are midwits. What they call a midwit. People who are, they're not dumbasses, but they're not super geniuses either. Most people are midwits. They want middle-brow entertainment. They want stuff like pro wrestling. They want stuff like comic books. They want stuff like video games. They want stuff like that. Because in escapism, they don't want to sit around and everything is fucking MSNBC or everything is Fox News. That's not what they want. But that's what they're getting. It's what's going to end up happening. Because right now, MSNBC is writing the fucking comic books. So what do you think is going to happen when people grow up? It's all going to be MSNBC. Because you didn't care. You turned your back on it. It's an embarrassment. This is why libertarians and conservatives are fucking stupid. Largely, not everybody. There are some channels out there that are pretty smart, that are trying to do, create their own culture, or they're being critics in a very interesting way. Eric July is one of them. I really support Eric July. That's my dude. But a lot of these people who are just like culture, who cares? They're detrimental. Let's put it like that. Let's put it directly on those. The people who cannot enjoy simple culture, right? Even if it was simplistic, people who cannot enjoy simple culture are going to destroy both the libertarians and the conservatives, and they're going to end up all being swept up by all these crazy socialists. Because you don't care. You have this giant account, and instead of trying to promote things that promote your values, even if it's a superhero story that promotes your values, you decide we're going to denigrate the entire genre and make everybody who loves it feel like an adolescent and an immature child. Because you should supposed to watch C-SPAN. That's what you're supposed to do. Because you're an adult. It's like, where do you think these people come from? Where do you think they come from? Stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.